and we saw Tony just basically annihilate a show and tell deck.
Yeah, was not particularly close.
As you can imagine, show and tell probably a very good matchup for Tony, as his deck is also show and tell, but doesn't actually need to show and tell any of his stuff into play. A lot of show and tell decks have Through the Breach or Sneak Attack to help, supplement. He just has 15 mana. That's his backup plan.
That's easy for him. As we do see the players are underway here. Robert Wilkinson starting with the Sensei's Divining Top. Tony with a Cloud Post, and you see Robert is going to activate the top. On his upkeep, make sure his draw is good. He does find an island, and he's going to pass the turn. As Tony did take a mulligan this game, he is on 6 cards.
There's a Caracas, not the land you want to see. It's very important for Tony to play as many of his, Cloud Post locust effects as possible early on.
And you're going to see Expedition Map be able to find those lands for him. Doesn't play a ton of Expedition Maps, plays 3, but that's going to be able to find an additional Cloud Post or Vesuva to be able to copy the Cloud Post. And we are going to see Counterbalance here from Robert, and normally that combo, deadly, but as you said, Joe Lissette ran into this deck a little bit earlier today, and establishing Counterbalance plus Sensei's Divining Top, not so good in this matchup.
So we're going to break our map here. What are we going to... Our Expedition Party finds another Cloud Post.
Yep. So Tony doing a nice job of ramping up here. And with Candelabra of Tawnos in play, he's actually going to be able to generate a ton of mana with those Cloud Posts to be able to make it much easier to cast Emrakul the Aeon's Torn, Kozilek, and Ulamog. He does have 1 copy of each Eldrazi in his deck.
Yeah.
And we only see Candelabra in those High Tide decks.
Nope, this is... Well, just actually has lands that just make enough mana to make it worth Candelabra.
And you do see a Glimmer Post here for Tony. It's going to gain him 3 life, and Ulamog was his draw step here. Those Cloud Posts are going to be tapping for 3 mana
6,
each.
7, 8, 7. So we have 15 mana right now, if I'm counting correctly?
That was easy.
All right, well, let's see where this takes us.
I don't know if he has 15 mana, but he can make so much mana that he can actually probably keep his Caracas untapped. So if there's like a Swords to Plowshares coming here, he can just Caracas his Ulamog, make sure it doesn't die. So we do see a turn 4 Ulamog here, trigger on the stack as you see Tony's going, how did this happen? That's what Robert's wondering.
I doubt he has anything in his Counterbalance deck to...
Are you sure there's no 11s?
So, I'm not sure what is going on with the Ulamog trigger here.
Well, the Ulamog trigger looks to be targeting Counterbalance right here.
Oh, sure.
And it is going to get him from underneath this soft lock.
I mean, this is not much of a lock at all.
I called it soft.
This is the softest of locks.
Yes, pillow soft. Charmin.
This deck makes me giggle, and that's not.
I couldn't tell.
The deck's. I'm not saying the deck's bad. Obviously, some of its matchups are insane, but watching it in action is a real treat.
As we are going to see a Force of Will removing Brainstorm to take care of the Ulamog, which ain't no big deal. Just go and shuffle that bad boy back in there.
Whatever. It's still there.
So you do see the power of the Eldrazi on display here. Now, of course, with that being taken care of, and Robert does still have Sensei's Divining Top, Robert's still doing fine here.
Yeah, but he's got time is not on his side. Yeah. He has to. I mean, he has 15 mana already. We're in hard cast Emrakul land already. Yeah. And even every main deck Python Needle, Tony needs to play these primarily because of Wasteland, which is, as you would imagine, devastating for this deck.
But certainly doesn't hurt being able to name Sensei's Divining Top. Also, something clever that he can do here is name Flooded Strand.
Yeah, I mean,
as there are 2 copies of that. So if Robert overlooks that, it'll be quite the beating. As we do see Sensei's Divining Top drawing a card, and we're going to see. Okay.
Robert's aware of what's about to happen here.
So we'll see now that the top has gone, the Flooded Strands are out of play. We'll see exactly what Tony's going to decide to name here, actually, with Pithing Needle. As, it's very easy to name Sensei's Divining Top here, but...
I believe I would name Jason the Mind Sculptor.
That one is actually quite good to name.
That seems like the most threatening card now that you don't have to worry about top, and he can't blow him out with Flooded Strand. If Robert played Jace here and started Fate Sealing, it could get pretty ugly, so...
You know, you can also name Helm of Obedience as well, as that is, you know, a win condition for Robert. Only one copy, of course, but also something to consider. As we do see,
All right, he named Helm of Obedience. Okay. Robert mulling over brainstorming or fate sealing.
Decisions here. Jace's going to have a large impact on this game. And I can see now, with it being in play, exactly why you wouldn't want to name it, mainly because of the fate sealing. But I mean, it's Jace the Mind Sculptor. It's just going to take over a game if it isn't dealt with.
Yep.
That's just how the card works.
Although naming Helm of Obedience might imply that Tony has a very strong hand, and he just doesn't care that much about Jace.
Sure. And we are going to see a pithing needle here. It's going to name Candelabra of Tano, so that's going to slow down the mana a little bit.
Yeah,
here
that's
for
a
Tony,
very good turn for Robert.
Tony going to take a draw step. Can't quite make out what that one is.
I believe it's Primeval Titan, but we are obviously very short on green mana. Now we need to naturally draw 2 green, as we don't have Candelabra to filter in the event that we drew 1 green source.
And Tony does just draw his card and pass back. So now you're going to see Jace here fate seal Tony, and now Jace the Mind Sculptor are going to go to work. And Tony's going to, Robert is going to move that card to the bottom. You're going to see Rest in Peace here. Going to take away a few of his cards, but those don't matter a ton. Tony's going to take a draw step. You're going to see another Candelabra. And does just pass back.
And there's Energy Field.
Jace going to move on up.
Energy Field, rest in peace, not that good against the Eldrazi.
Yeah, normally a good combo against decks that are attacking, but in this case, it's going to be just basically one shot from these Eldrazi decks. See him weighing the ramification, and does decide to go with Energy Field, and does just pass back, so he has established another combo, which is what's interesting about this blue-white control deck, is it is a deck that just does have a bunch of mini combos.
Right. None of them, as you know, top counterbalance, Energy Field, and Rest in Peace. None of them that effective against the type of threats that Tony's presenting.
Oh. And now we do see Tropical Island here, so we'll see maybe if it's show and tell time. We're just going to be passing back what exactly Tony's going to do this turn, because we do know that he has Primeval Titan, but not sure what else is in his hand right now.
Yeah, I mean, if he can get Primeval, maybe he has Repeal in his hand and can break out of the Piping Needle, and then make a million mana, you know?
And his deck list does have 4 Repeals in it, does Tony's, so that would be a way to break out of this situation. As you see, Jace is fate sealing, and not brainstorming, and creating that sort of advantage.
Right, and it's potentially just super devastating if he gets to get 1 Primeval Titan to resolve, even without an attack, because he can go get Ivugin plus another Cloud Post and make, I don't know, millions of mana.
And what you see here is a Brainstorm here from Tony. 2 and 3. Glimmer Post being one of the cards there, and it can't make out the other 2 too well. And oddly enough, this deck that Tony is playing, the 12-post deck, it does have some shuffle effects that you wouldn't really expect. You know, it does have a couple of fetch lands, but also keep in mind there are 4 crop rotations here to shuffle away, and there are 3 copies of Expedition maps, so, and of course 4 Primeval Titans, so there can be some shuffling with the Brainstorm. Tony going to take a draw. You do see.
You can also find another Piping Needle would be an excellent draw here too.
Yeah. We're going to see Vesuva
on Tropical Island, so that's a very strong representation of Primeval Titan.
Yep. And you're going to see a Sensei's Divining Top here as well. Going to go topping away. He can kind of, oddly enough, protect himself from Jace a little bit here.
Yep.
Robert draws a card.
To counterbalance. He's going to fate seal himself.
Now, you know that makes perfect sense, of course, with top being there.
Yeah.
You know, fate sealing Tony's not actually going to do anything. Now you are going to see counterbalance here. Can't imagine that Tony cares too much about that.
Well, Tony does have repeal in hand. Does repeal have to be exact cost, or can you overpay? Is it extra less?
I believe that repeal does have to be exact cost. We'll bring it up on the screen for you guys, just because
That's a big deal here about whether
absolutely.
or not. Yeah, he can.
And something you consider right now is, repealing pithing needle is nice. Can't run to counterbalance, but repealing Jace is even nicer.
Yeah, I guess now he has to go and start repealing. He has to repeal Jace now because. And repealing Jace is totally fine. Like Tony can definitely work around what's happening on the board. He just can't allow Jace to go ultimate. That's the risk.
You're going to see him repeal the pithing needle, so it's going to be a spell that does cost 2.
I guess we're just hoping he doesn't have a 2 on top.
Yeah. That could be in response to the counterbalance, but it's not. Okay. And yeah, that makes sense that it wouldn't be in response to that. Never mind.
Yeah, this has to be in a turn, otherwise you can just replay the needle.
Yep. And counterspell. The blind reveal. You see a top activation here on the end step. We'll see what Tony can find. Big reveal there for Robert.
Yeah, and winning this game with counterspell on top for Tony is going to be pretty tough.
Yeah, he's got to take advantage of this turn big time right now. We do see Glimmer Post. It's going to gain Tony, looks like 4 life as Vesuva is copying, of course, the Tropical Island. And now we're going to see Primeval Titan. So as long as Jace isn't able to go ultimate, he's going to be able to search up Ayavugan. He's going to be able to search up another Cloud Post. Then he can go bonkers next turn.
Yep.
So there's your Cloud Post, and there's your Ayavugan.
All right. So next turn, how much mana are we looking at here? 9. It's like it's an unreasonable amount of mana, right? I mean, we can actually tutor 4 and cast Emrakul, if I'm looking at this correctly. Looking at 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 15. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21.
See, Robert is going to draw that counter spell here.
Yep. So we have one more Fate Seal.
You do see Jace the Mind Sculptor on the screen there for you guys. Ultimate ability costing 12.
Because if Tony actually has enough mana to tutor 4 and cast Emrakul, the counterspell doesn't even matter. Because he gets to take another turn and then replay the same sequence.
Yep. Because of the Caracas, providing that advantage.
Oh, not even the counter. I'm saying the counterspell doesn't even matter.
Oh, I know. I agree with you. Yeah, of course.
So he gets to reshuffle the Emrakul and then go again.
Yep.
So he has the Cloud Posts are 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Oh, it's uncounterable anyway. Even if you could counter it, does not even matter.
So we're looking at these Cloud Posts tapping for a whole bunch of mana.
5, 6, 7, so that's the eye.
Let me see,
10,
5,
11,
10,
12,
11,
13,
12.
14?
Nope, and Ayavugan reduces the cost by 2.
Oh, okay.
So,
what doesn't it do?
yeah, basically. You see him search out an Emrakul here. And the thing that he's going to be able to do here is, he's going to be able to take that extra turn, he can Caracas it back to his hand, and just keep looping it that way.
Yeah. So, counterbalance top, energy field, rest in peace. Jace, Fate Sealing for a million turns. Is just not better than Emrakul.
Yeah.
It is not better than this. Points to announce the trigger.
Saying, I would really like to take that extra turn. I don't want to miss that. And you see he's going to activate Sensei's Divine Top with his last mana off of Caracas. That's exactly what you're going to see here. And now you're going to see Emrakul begin to, as weird as this is to say, chip away at Robert here.
Start nickel and diming him?
Yeah, start nickel and diming his permanents, which is weird, but actually is going to be the case. He's going to draw a card. Going to come across here. Annihilator 6 as he taps on it for the trigger. And choose 6 good ones. Now, of course, Energy Field plus Rest in Peace is going to make it so he doesn't take any damage from this hit. But
yeah, we're an infinite turn.
Yeah, we're an infinite turn alien monster.
Yeah, infinite turn, infinite Annihilator land, so, you know.
The thing is, you can't stop all that spaghetti.
No. It's like a whole, it's like multiple servings worth. I don't think the enormity of the situation has quite dawned on Robert yet.
Yeah, not quite yet. I don't think.
Don't worry too much about this decision, my friend.
I'm not quite sure that he sees the Caracas part of this, and to be fair, Tony may not either. I know we see it here, but I think once he sees the Caracas target the Emrakul to bounce it back, that's when he's gonna go. Oh boy. There's 3. Considering sacrificing a lot of his enchantments, as you guys do see Caracas on the screen. I'm not quite sure, Patrick, that this is what this card was designed to do.
Well, I would like to believe it was designed to do something more like this, and less to do something like bounce your opponent's Savitra scars on when it finally got into play, which is like the only thing it can do in Legends, which is the set it appeared in. So I don't know. I'm worried Tobias Android might be too good. All right, we'll put a permanent unsummon on the planes, I guess, in the set, just in case.
Get that thing out of here.
Keep on losing your Solkanar the Swamp King. All right, permanent unsummon for it.
And there it is.
Okay.
There it is. That's what we thought we might see happen, as Caracas bouncing Emrakul and making Robert pick up his permanent. So Tony Murata up a game here with this 12-post deck against Robert Wilkinson in his blue-white control deck.
Yeah, it's tough. I forget about the full scope of Emrakul's power because it's only ever shown and tell them to play, right?
Yeah.
So just like 15, 59, layer 6 and protection from stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, it wouldn't even matter in that spot if Robert could counterspell it, and it's uncounterable anyway.
Sure.
So just the fix is in on like so many different ways.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we're going to cut back to the booth here, and it's trivia time, my friends, where we're going to give away 3 months of Star City Games Premium. It's pretty easy. We're going to ask you a question. You're going to give us an answer, and you're going to send that answer to hashtag SCG Premium. Simple stuff. Are we ready to play America's favorite game? Do you have one?
Well, you gave the thumbs up there, so I assume that you had one in the cut.
Well, you're the master of America's favorite game.
Well, there's no Nephilim decks in the so we're gonna have to hold off. We can't just fire off.
All right. Fine. He's no fun. I hate working with him. So in excuse me, Robert Wilkinson's deck. Not a traditional take on the blue-white Miracles archetype. That's why we're deeming it blue-white control. He has a card that partners up incredibly well and actually acts as a win condition in his deck, with his 3 copies of Rest in Peace. I'll give you a hint, it's an artifact. If you're able to name that artifact, that partners up very well with Rest in Peace, a 1-of in his deck that he can Enlighten Tutor for. Is that softball enough?
Yes, that's good.
You win the 3 months. All you have to do is tweet your answer to hashtag at SCG.
Hashtag
SCG Premium.
Oh, you said artifact, right?
I did say artifact.
Right, because you could argue that against certain decks, there's actually 2 things that come with Rest in Peace to win the game. So the artifact is an important piece of clarification.
It is, and that's why
I asked.
And that's why I said it.
I'm more of a fact checker, except when it comes to Emrakul's powers. This is not the first time that it's just like.
That was, honestly, that was pretty embarrassing. You just had no idea what it did.
Well, it's not that I have no idea. It just does so many things, and when it gets hard cast,
then
it's. This is the multiple time where I'm like, it doesn't even matter if the guy has, plow in his hand or whatever. It's like you can't plow that thing, or
you can't do anything.
Sting Scourger.
I've done it.
Yeah.
Feels good. That
thing's very good once it's in play.
That's true. Yeah, you tell him, buddy.
The Adam Chambers sees Sid test.
Get him a raise. Get him a raise, please. He can do this on his own. We don't need me. Moving to the sideboard games here, genius. Robert Wilkinson, obviously game 1 not so good.
That's
so
that's
good.
to say the very least.
Sideboarded games, trying to figure out if they're going to get much better as you see both players looking at the deck lists here. Well, you're going to find one copy of Ensnaring Bridge, good start. Really good start. A copy of Terminus in the sideboard as well. Spell Pierce, okay here. Humility,
Oh yeah.
very good. Disenchant, okay. Not great, but not terrible. 2 copies of Force Will in the sideboard, which are okay. Another copy of Pithing Needle, Elspeth, Knight Errant to be able to end the game quickly. And a card that is interesting that I think he may bring in is 4 copies of Mindbreak Trap.
Oh, just to have.
As just a 4-mana counterspell, because it actually does take care of the Eldrazi.
Right.
And
It's an exile, right?
yeah, because it exiles them, and
Yep.
it's a weird way to go about doing things, but when your matchup is bad, you have to get a little crafty.
Right.
And I think that this might be able to get the job done.
Well, particularly when you have this counterbalance, rest in peace, energy field nonsense that just doesn't do anything. right?
Yeah.
You know?
As those cards aren't really at home here. Now, I think we see him leaving in Rest in Peace, probably, but those energy fields are going to go. Oblivion Ring, Detention Sphere, whatever, those are probably going to go. And he's going to have to win the game with Helm of Obedience plus Rest in Peace, but I think Mindbreak Trap can play a huge role in this matchup.
Yeah, no, I had not thought of that. Obviously, in your mind, it's just, yeah, it's an anti-combo card.
Yeah.
But yeah, exiling is a huge deal.
Yeah.
And over on Tony's side of the matchup, he has probably another Pithing Needle he want to bring in. I
Yeah.
mean, the blue-white control deck's chock full of things you can name. I saw him bring in Flusterstorm earlier against a control deck, so we might just want that as a way to force through some stuff.
Sure.
Certainly, if he suspects Robert's bringing a Mindbreak Trap, that's a nice answer because it's a 4-mana. You're playing discombobulate mana cost to cast it. And 2 copies of Venser. I'm not sure if that's more specific, more of like a specific bullet, or if that's just to bring in against slower decks with permanents in general.
So a couple of decent ones for him to bring in here. I don't really... Chalice of the Void is a card that kind of just, it went to the front of my mind really quickly and then kind of scaled back on that. I don't really think that's really at home in this particular matchup.
Well, I mean, he has Brainstorm, Plow, and Lightning Tutor, and Sensei's Divining Top. All those cards are very good. So Chalice on 1 is actually possibly legitimate, right?
I think it's legitimate. It's tough too, though, because Tony has his own. He has Brainstorm. He has 4 crop rotations. He has 4 of his own Sensei's Divining Tops as well, and 3 Pithing Needles and 3 Expedition maps, and 2 Candelabras. So I don't think he can sideboard out enough of those 1-drops where you're actually going to want to bring in Chalice of the Void.
Yeah, I mean, we had Tony on camera earlier. He brought in Chalice and set it on 1 against a similar deck.
Yep.
So I don't know if that's a conventional sideboard plan of his, but we've seen it before.
So it'll be interesting. I mean, things definitely look like, just on paper that they do favor Tony. And even that game, as you said, a lot of the stuff was established there by Robert. He had Rest in Peace plus Energy Field, Pithing Needle on a relevant card, Jason the Mind Sculptor kind of going animal there with Fate Sealing, and none of it good enough to get the job done there.
I mean, that game he had top counterbalance, forcible backup, cantrips plus Jace resolves in stable board plus Rest in Peace, Energy Field. And you're telling me that he had those tools. That's like the best stuff his deck can do, basically. And it wasn't even really that close to mattering. I mean, it was close insofar as Jace got within one turn of going ultimate.
Yeah.
But it didn't. None of those defensive measures mattered at all. They didn't do anything. That's got to be. I mean, if you thought the matchup was bad going in after playing that game, you've got to be thinking like, what am I supposed to do here?
Yeah, it's got to be a little bit heartbreaking.
And Tony Mulligan also.
Yeah,
yeah,
forgot about that.
Yeah.
As we do see both players shuffling up here and presenting to play game 2, it definitely does seem as though the pendulum is swinging Tony's way in this particular matchup. And again, this deck is an interesting deck, 12 Post, because when you don't play against Wasteland, you are quite the deck. But the decks that are really popular and enjoy a lot of success in Legacy, unsurprisingly, do play Wasteland. Rug, Bug, Maverick has kind of tapered off a little bit with that deck. Goblins has Wasteland as well. So, it's a gamble.
And it wouldn't surprise me if this deck was actually fun against slower Wasteland decks. I'm sure it's the Rugs and, the Goblins of the world that are actually the real troubling matchups.
And it looks like we do have both players keeping 7 cards. You're going to see a Tundra and a Sensei's Divining Top to get game 2 started.
And there it is, the most important turn 1 play this deck can have. Although, is that I believe it's a Dust Bowl.
Oh, it is. I saw that catch your eye real quick.
Oh, yeah. Dust Bowl is a potential ace here for Robert. If one Wasteland's good, how are an unlimited number of wastelands.
So we are going to see counterbalance here from Robert as well. So establishing the first soft lock of the game. You do see crop rotation in Tony's hand, so that's a card that's not going to be joining the fray anytime soon. And you're going to see Tropical Island from Tony. And yeah, if Robert is able to get Wasteland online, or excuse me, Dust Bowl online, that gets a little bit scary as we're going to see Pithing Needle here.
Right.
You're going to draw a card, move that there, and make him counter the Pithing Needle that way. I mean, Sensei's Divine top the card cast, and maybe he's going to go for maybe a crop rotation with this on the stack. A little bit risky.
Right. But I mean, it would rationalize why he was willing to fire the Pithing Needle out there.
Now we do see a Glimmer Post. Going to gain Tony 2 life, move him up to 22. That Cloud Post is going to tap for 2 now, so he does have access to 4 mana at this point. And we are going to see Show and Tell here by Tony.
Open response.
Does not look like the face of a confident man.
Yeah, it does not look like someone setting a 3.
No, no, the confidence is all but gone now.
Yeah, it does not look like a man setting a 3 on top. Can his hand handle this at all?
Well, I mean, depending on what Tony does put into play here.
Sure.
And then again, it may not even matter what he puts into play, because even if it's something as quote-unquote weak as Primeval Titan, that's going to start the Cloud Post shenanigans and Eye of Ugin again. So let's see exactly what Robert's going to do here. You can tell.
All right.
Thinking away, and he says, all right, that's okay. Just going to take a look at Show and Tell, and we'll bring that up for you guys as well. Really quickly, Legacy staple there allows a player to put in anything but a Planeswalker.
Right, because Planeswalkers did not exist at the time. And there's Primeval Titan. Dust Bowl, less impressive now with Primeval Titan in play.
Yeah, and you're going to see Dust Bowl, Tony taking a look at that card, and he's thinking, oof, it's good that you didn't draw that game 1.
Right.
Dust Bowl being that reusable wasteland. Always one of my favorite pictures, Dust Bowl.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, all that dirt. Going to take out your house. You see Primeval Titan going to work here. You don't see a ton of in Legacy.
Oh boy.
See him search out the Cloud Post and the Eye of Ugin here. Actually, searching out the Eye of Ugin and leaving it available to be hit there with the Dust Bowl. And you are going to see an Enlightened Tutor here on the end step. See who he's going to search out here.
If we had Enlightened Tutor in our hand, couldn't we have Enlightened Tutor for Ensnaring Bridge and counterbalance the Show and Tell?
Assuming that he does have Ensnaring Bridge in his
Or
deck.
Detention Sphere or something?
Yeah.
We're going to go with Humility.
Okay.
So is Humility all zones? Like, do Eldrazi's cast triggers still occur with Humility?
I look like a judge to you?
Well, you're the one who were like, oh, you don't know what Emrakul does.
I don't remember that.
Okay, the triggers still work.
Fortunately.
That was actually exactly the voice you had, too.
Oh,
thank you. Humility.
It's not Primeval Titan, just a lowly 1/1.
Right. I mean, that solves some problems in the short term, of course, but long term, it's not going to break up Eye of Ugin and just getting the Eldrazi's and getting their CIP triggers.
I mean, yes, they'll get the. I mean, I guess Ulamog is the big CIP trigger here, since that's the one that can destroy.
Or we can just repeal Humility. That's not bad.
Yeah, it's
not bad either.
Not the worst turn I've ever seen.
All right.
Make sure that everything
Does
here
he have
is
a
kosher.
Does he have a 5 to hit with repeal?
He does have 2 copies of Force of Will in the sideboard and 2 copies of the main deck, but that's an island. And now that's going to go back. Repeal is going to draw him a card. And here comes Prime Time.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Trigger. 2 more lands.
This is considerably more fun than Valakut and Mountain.
Yeah.
In terms of if you're gonna get someone with Primeval Titan.
I can't disagree. I can't disagree with you there. That's for sure.
I like that. I like Primeval Titan not even really being the end game. He's like, no, he's just an accelerant for my actual big late game threats.
Yeah. Things are just getting started here.
No, he's more of my mid-range threat here. So another Cloud Post and a Caracas. Caracas providing insurance against, with his Eldrazi, he can start looping.
Yep. Just like we saw in game 1 there.
Yeah. Unlimited time walks or vindicates or what have you.
And don't forget 6 damage as well. We do have a result for you guys while they are resolving the rest of this here turn by Kurt Sampson playing Rug Delver, takes down Jason Bukowski playing Dredge 2-0. Rather quick fashion.
Yes.
A little bit surprised by that.
I would assume game 1 for Rug was not positive.
Yeah, that's what I would think too. Maybe there were some mulligans involved, not entirely sure.
Dredge has a habit of doing that.
No.
Not that it really cares about mulliganing because it doesn't really play Magic, so it's not bound by the same rules and considerations of other decks. But,
It feels like he has some strong opinions about Dredge.
I do.
It's like we're going to see some dust bowling.
I think, or maybe recast the Humility.
Oh yeah, we could see the Humility yet again.
I guess, but the Eye of Ugin
Looming.
Does not care.
Yeah, it is looming. You can see Robert really thinking here.
Robert, this is not your fault. You had top counterbalance and Light and Tutor. There's just not enough here. You need to put some 15s in your deck.
Yeah. Fix that right
Or
now.
11s or whatever.
Alright, well you're going to see the Dust Bowl activation. It's going to take care of the Eye of Ugin here. Now you're going to see Sensei's Divine Top. So we're going to get the soft lock back online. But again, there is a Primeval Titan in play.
Right.
And you are going to see a top on the upkeep here to make sure that Tony does draw the card that he does want to draw, because he does have plenty of mana to be able to do that.
Yeah.
As those Cloud Posts are tapping for 4 colorless mana each right now. Walking into this turn with at least 14 mana.
Primeval Titan and Sensei's Divine Top also combo because it's a free shuffle.
Oh.
On top of making 12 mana and attacking for 6.
Our interaction's fun. Do you see Tony's going to draw an Expedition map there? See a top activation here again with the Caracas. See if you can find one of those Eldrazi. Organizes things in such a way. We'll see a Primeval Titan trigger here. 2 more lands for Tony.
He's going to go and find...
See a fetch in the front there. Okay, we'll see Cloud Post number 1. And we'll see Scalding Tarn. And the reason behind that, of course, is just to be able to cycle, to shuffle more with the Sensei's Divine Top to be able to find the Eldrazi, because with Eye of Ugin gone, and with only 1 in the deck list, he can't actually find the Eldrazi in the way that he needs to.
Right, it also gives him access to a second green in case he draws another Primeval Titan.
So it's going to also deal 6, of course. Can't ignore that fact about the Titan,
Yep.
which does put Robert down to 7. You also see another top activation here from Tony. Brainstorm among the other cards there. A card that's not really going to do too much when there's Sensei's Divine Top plus Counterbalance in play. And you are going to see an Expedition map get cast here.
I guess Robert's happy to trade this with a... He doesn't trade this with a mana. He's so far ahead.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it is meaningful if Robert's planning on recasting Humility next turn.
And the funny thing here is I think that Robert, and we didn't get a good look at it, was tapped out at the end of that turn, and so he actually just has to draw a card here with the top. Or, I mean, he can't ignore it, of course.
Yeah, it's not clear how much that map matters.
Yeah. This feels like baiting to me by Tony. And he says, okay, that's fine. You can counter that. As we
Robert
do
drew
see
a Detention Sphere.
Detention Sphere, not terrible. Another quick result for you guys here as we're going to go back to Robert's turn in just a moment. we have Mickey Urban playing Jund up a game over Andrew Castro in his Rug Delver deck.
Yep. And Mickey also beat Jonathan Joe playing Rug for his winning in. So
we do see Humiliate here from Robert, and you see that Expedition map play does actually pay off there for Tony because now Sensei's Divine Top not in play.
Yep. So he can start, if he has other ones in his hands, he's trying to free up.
Just draw a card, draws a Flooded Strand. See a top activation here with the Glimmer Post. And you're going to see Scalding Tarn get sacrificed here. Get himself a shuffle, get a land out of his deck. He does have in his main deck 4 tropical islands and 1 basic island to be able to search for with his blue fetch lands.
Tony just really trying to find just something to get Humility off the table, wrap this game up. Robert just trying to hang on for dear life here.
Yeah. Set it back, probably have another top activation here, and do that off of Caracas. You can see Tony just looking for one of those big dumb animals to be able to finish this off with. See some mana being tapped here.
So repeal.
We are going to see a repeal yet again on Humility. Repeal pretty good when you have a ton of mana.
Yeah.
Believe it or not. Normally a card that can be a little bit too slow to get the job done because it is expensive, depending on what you're trying to bounce, but you have 4 Cloud Posts in play. It doesn't quite matter, as we're going to see Primeval Titan here.
And funny enough, now Humility doesn't even do anything because Robert's falling to 1.
Yeah.
So a 1/1 Primeval Titan can actually finish the game off next turn.
Isn't it ironic?
Gets another shuffle.
Glimmer Post is going to gain himself 6 life, move up to 27. You and your little burn deck want to play against this deck?
I don't know if the matchup's terrible. I think I've got more game than Counterbalance does, certainly. Okay. But I feel like I'm probably below 50%. Price of Progress has got to be good against this deck.
Oh, why?
Because there's a lot of non-basics. And the deck isn't really that fast and doesn't have counters.
Oh.
I guess Glimmer Post is probably horrible for me.
That's the card I'd be a little scared to play against if I'm you.
Sure.
That card comes in and probably gains like 8 life, but again, like Price of Progress does deal a ton of damage against him, so.
I've seen Tony have games where he finally does something very powerful on turn 4, but the first 3 turns doesn't do anything.
Sure.
And those games feel pretty winnable.
Okay. We're going to see Sensei's lined up. Draw a card. Have we found it? We have found it. Ulamog. This is the card that he did draw off of Sensei's Divine Top. This is going to tap for 6. That's a lot of mana for a card to tap for. And now you do see Ulamog. The cast trigger destroying target permanent. He's going to take care of a Tundra. He's going to reveal reveal Flooded Strand and scoop it up.
Robert, you played fine. Your draws were good, but there's just nothing to be done about that.
As Rashid Wallace would say,
both teams played hard.
Tony Murata moving along to the top 4, moving on to the semifinals with his 12-post deck. Robert Wilkinson, a good showing this particular weekend, but this is what happens in Magic. Sometimes you run into a bad matchup.
Oh yeah, this is. I mean, I've definitely been on my side of there was nothing I could do here. I've never really